Okay, we should be set.
All right, I will call to order this February 25th, 2021 meeting of the Moab City Planning Commission at 6:02 p.m. For commissioners present, we have Marianne Becknell, Becky Wells, Jessica O'Leary, John Knight, Ruben Villalpandos, I pronounced it probably incorrectly, and Luke Wojciechowski, as well as Chair Kai Merrifield. First item of business, citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard this evening, Summer?
I do not have any forms and I don't have anyone waiting. So it appears that that's a no.
All right, great. Next item, item 3, approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes that we can approve today from December 10th, 2020 and from January 14th, 2021. If folks have had a chance to look at those and make sure they're accurate, we can entertain a motion on those.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. Ready for a roll call when you are, Summer.
Okay. Jesso?
Aye.
Marianne?
Aye.
Aya?
Aye.
John? John, are you there?
Ooh.
Okay, we'll go Ruben.
Aye.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, Luke?
Aye.
Becky?
I have not had a chance to read through these, so I probably shouldn't vote.
Okay. John?
You're muted, John. You're muted.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties and
Oh.
just got in. So I had no idea what we're voting
Minutes.
on. So just
We're
able to
voting on
log
the
in.
minutes.
Okay, yes, I approve them.
Great, thank you.
All right, great. All voting to approve except Becky abstaining. Thanks, folks. All right, first action item, consideration and possible approval of planning resolution 02-2021, a planning resolution approving the townhome plat application for the 3rd Street Townhomes property located at 116 South, 300 East, Moab, Utah 84532. Sounds like Corey is our presenter.
Yes, thank you. Good to see everybody. Okay, everyone can see our full screen here. Awesome. We do have the wrong date here. I apologize for that. It's the 25th, not 23rd, but moving forward, again, property located at 116 South, 300 East. Property owner Craig Parks, applicant Ben Bird. That parcel size being 0.32 acres. Current zone for this is R3 multi-household residential. And what we're looking at is that townhome plat of multi-household residential. So to talk a little bit about this, Ben Bird has been approved through the building permit process to begin construction of the multi-household residential development on this property here. What we're looking at tonight is the townhome platting of that development into individual ownership. So more or less a platting exercise for the property to be able to have individual ownerships of each of those lots within this property. A little bit of background on what we're looking at. So this vicinity map showing that ballpark area, the 100 South, 300 East, and then this all being within that R3 zone there. Also included was the county recorded plat. So it's this parcel in the top right-hand corner of this Moab block. This is the submitted draft plat for the townhomes here. I have a zoom in here. You can actually see a little bit better what the breakdown of those individual lots are. So what Ben has done is broken this townhome plat into 5 individual lots, allowing these east and west lots to compensate for the setback requirements for within those lots. So each of the buildable areas is relatively or approximately the exact same. However, additional lottage been portioned out for each of those. This being the front of the property, the access is off of 300 East here to the rear. So this is the driveway access, which allows for access into the 2-car garages on the south end of the properties there. This is a slide from the building permit application to show exactly what the breakdown of the building construction is. So not pertinent to what we're approving today. We're just approving the platting, but to show you what they're essentially going to be looking like, and then the way they're constructed on that lot and located. This was the narrative that was submitted by Ben. I'll move my little gallery piece here. Just to quickly read through it, 3rd Street subdivision is a split of 13,000 square feet R3 city lot into 5 separate residential parcels. That's more or less correct, as it's 5 lots within that parcel. It's a townhome plat of that parcel. So each individual lot doesn't have the same qualities that a full parcel might, but that is vernacular in the difference between those definitions. Moab City Code allows multi-household residential within the R3. Each lot of multi-household, each multi-household dwelling requires 2,000 square feet. So again, within this narrative, this was submitted by the applicant. So some of the terminology is a little bit mixed, but just want to be clear as we're reading through this. As it was included in the application, I don't want any discrepancies between the actual definitions and what's going on here. Lots created will front on 100 South with a shared access to the garages on 300 East. This project has been started and is scheduled for an April completion, which will include the required water and sewer connections. The 3rd Street HOA will be in place and oversee the shared access and other common elements of the subdivision. Ben attached them within that submittal. Homes being built now on the property are 2-story, 1,600 square feet plus or minus, with 2-car garages. Each home has a nice sized driveway in the back and a small yard area in the front. This little background just gives the processing history of this application coming in essentially as a condominium conversion application, more or less. Is we don't have a townhome plat application. So a new condo development application versus a condo conversion application, this lives somewhere a little bit differently, but essentially we're processing it the same way as a platting exercise. With this motion, there have been comments from our engineers, so I'm going to go quickly back to our draft plat, that they are recommending a conditional approval of this plat because there is some discrepancy on the legal description as far as the meets and bounds goes, and that just needs to be clarified on the final plat. So that would be something we could approve conditionally tonight, and then when they go to generate that Mylar plat, they could generate a new draft with the accurate meets and bounds. And I think it was specific to this parcel boundary on the east side. So that was really the only element that would be extra when reviewing this. So I'll stop sharing screen. We can enter in discussion if we need to.
Could I see those concept again?
Sure.
Was that on that was separate? We don't have that, right?
How do you mean, Ruben?
I guess the back 2 slides. Maybe not. Yeah, this guy.
Zoom in. Oh. There we go. See if I can zoom in a little bit closer. That's the artistic rendering up top here.
Okay.
So there is individual access off the street, kind of a pedestrian feel. It's actually a fairly nice approach. And then that vehicle access, you can kind of see in the back there in the south side or the rear side of the property.
Neat.
Perfect. Is that good enough?
Yeah, I just wanted to see
Okay.
them. We don't have this. This would be separate for us voting tonight, right?
The building permit application has been processed through the building department because the construction was a permitted use. So it's not something that we necessarily vote on
Okay,
yea or nay. What we're voting on is essentially the approval of a plat
I see.
to allow them to break up the ownership in a different component like you might with a condominium plat.
Do we know if they've sold already?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
They're market rate, so I don't know, but they're fairly small. And I don't know the status of pre-sales or whatever, but if you go down, if you drive down the street, you can certainly see them. So they're well underway.
The first house I ever lived in Moab was right next door, and it used to be a little green, cute old house with an outbuilding, and they had this fantastic garden that was there, but it was a big lot. So
I just wanted to offer a comment, not necessarily to this project, but to all projects in the future. It's, the conditional voting with conditional approval just to me seems like maybe not the best practice, and we should start voting with all of the requirements already in place before we approve anything. I think the Utah Property Ombudsman warned us against voting with conditional approval, so I just wanted to mention that. It's on my mind.
So that really applies to conditional uses probably, which we don't have anymore. So it's not unusual if there are a couple little things that need to be updated and everybody knows it to put a condition of approval. In general, we try to have all those, pretty much everything met by the time we bring it to the Planning Commission. So we try not to do a lot of conditions, but sometimes they have to print out the final plat anyway, so they'll correct the legal description when they do that. But I agree with you. It's not a good idea to have a lot of conditions out there.
yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense. And also I think it's nice, Corey and Nora, when you're able to, and it seems like you have been, or at least in response to questions, to explain how what the conditions are and what that actually means on the individual property. I think that's important because there's some where I know we have not forwarded to City Council several proposed action items in the past because there was some condition that, based on the explanation of staff, was just, to us, just a little bit too much. And we wanted to just make sure it was met before forwarding on a positive recommendation. So I think that hopefully jives well with that.
Totally appropriate. Yep.
Totally. All right. Well, great. We can entertain a motion now. We can have a motion to recommend this positively to City Council. We can, oh, sorry. I'm not looking at the agenda summary. You can approve this resolution. Sorry, not a City Council thing. We can approve this resolution. We can continue action on the item and give specific direction if, for example, one of those conditions we think is too much to approve without that condition explicitly being met yet. Or we can outright deny the application if there's a reason to do that. We can have discussion on anything and everything after someone makes a recommendation as well.
I don't think what is the condition exactly? I was trying to find somewhere I could read it.
And that's normally, if there is something like that, that's clerical, we try to include that as a preemptive condition of approval. With this one, it came in at a point that we've already had submitted some of this material and I hadn't updated the presentation, but what it might read as is I such and such conditionally approve planning resolution, and then including the following condition that the plat be updated to show the correct legal description. So that's the draft survey plat showing the correct legal description is the condition we're looking for here.
So I move to approve planning resolution 02-2021, a planning resolution approving the Townhome Plat application for the 3rd Street Townhomes property located at 116 South, 300 East, Moab, Utah, 84532, with the condition that the legal description is fixed on the plat.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. We have a motion for approval, excuse me, from Jesso and a second from Luke. Any discussion before we vote? Okay, whenever you're ready, Summer, we can take our vote.
Okay. Ruben,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Becky,
Sorry, can you hear me?
yes.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I should vote on this. Ben Bird is my brother, but he's not the owner of the property, so I'm not sure how to go about that.
You may just want to disclose what you just disclosed, that he's your brother, but you have no financial interest in this lot. And so you're going to go ahead and vote. Or if you
Okay.
feel like you need to abstain, you can.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm related to Ben, the builder. I'm not the listing agent on this. I don't have any financial gain from this. The property owner does have other properties listed with me, so I think I'll just not vote on this, just to be, safe rather than
Sounds good.
sorry.
Sounds good, Becky. Thanks. So Becky is abstaining.
Jesso
Aye.
and Kaya.
Aye.
I think I got everyone.
Okay, great. We motion passes, all voting yay except one abstaining. Great. Thanks, folks. All right, on to discussion items for the evening. Upcoming text amendments to the Moab Municipal Code.
So there are 2 text amendments that we've gone ahead and done public notice on that will show up at your next meeting for recommendations to City Council. Briefly, I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up. One of them has to do with the noise regulations in the code. Right now, our noise regulations are in Chapter 17, or the zoning code, zoning regulations. And they really should go into the health and safety regulations. And so the amendment would be moving them from Chapter 17 and putting them in the health and safety section of the code. In that way, the City Council can amend them more easily, because they are going to start looking at some noise enforcement for ATVs. And in fact, at their next City Council meeting, they were going to have a discussion item about that, to start discussing how we want to go about trying to enforce the noise ordinance, specifically as it's related to ATVs. So the code amendment is just sort of in preparation for that process. Really, it's not a zoning issue as much as it's a health and safety issue. So there's that one. The second one is pretty straightforward, but a little confusing. So there's a section of state code that that says that it's called the pending ordinance doctrine, or that's how it's referred to. And it's actually a section of the state code that says that if the city initiates an amendment to the land use code, and holds a public hearing, basically, or initiates, that any applicant that applies between the time that the project is initiated until the code amendment is done is on notice that those new code amendments could apply to their property. And there's some real specific state case law that gives us direction. And in the past, Moab has not had a definition of what that initiation is, to our detriment. So this just gives us an additional tool that's allowed by state law. I'm working with Lori Simonson, our city attorney, on it. So that will be before you as well. Not a huge thing, but an important thing. And then we have received a couple applications which are not on this next agenda, but probably will be on the following. And one of them is from an applicant who is requesting the text amendment to look at our non-conforming use, or I'm sorry, home occupation section of the code. As we know, with COVID and just the way life is in general, we're all working more and more from home. Most of us are. And our home occupation section really hasn't been updated terribly recently. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to look at that and make sure it says what we want it to say. We may want to do a work session and then schedule it for action. But I'd like to have some discussion around home occupation. So if you all want to take a look at that in your code, we will probably discuss it at the next meeting. Just a heads up. That's all.
That sounds great. That amendment to clarify specifically what in process means is really important for us. I know that's been an issue in the past because, when Moab goes to do something, it makes news, and there's definitely could be a run on folks trying to squeak in before it happens. So
exactly.
Good, but does anyone have any questions about anything that Nora mentioned coming up to kind of prep? Nora, could you maybe explain what home occupation means? I don't think it makes sense when you hear the term about what you're talking about.
So there are certain, we allow certain uses to be conducted out of the home, out of your home. And there's a business license that people have to get, and it's also regulated by zoning. And there are certain things like, we get a lot of them. People like doing, especially now, people like doing phone reservations for things, or even like we have a tour guide that only has 2 vehicles. It's just a phone basically, and he meets people out at the site and takes them places and then brings them back to the hotel. So there are uses that occur in the home that don't really impact the neighborhood negatively. They're allowed to have one other employee. They can only have a certain percentage of their house dedicated to this use. And mostly there are a lot of different people who do baking, for example, and sell them at businesses. So there are lots of different applications of it. And our code has some specific prohibitions right off the bat. And that's the list of things that I think we want to look at. We have the person who has submitted the amendment is an artist, and he does welding in his workshop, which is on his lot. And the code says right off the bat that anything that involves welding is prohibited. Not sure, he wants some more flexibility than that. And I don't know where we'll all decide where we go, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to at least look at that section of the code and see if we want to loosen things up a little bit.
I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's time. I mean, the world is changing, and so we have to too.
I do as well. I would love to see more folks be able to, especially in a town like ours where we have a pretty significant lack of office space.
We do.
Available. It'd be really nice to be able to make sure we can accommodate things that I'm sure all of us think are already allowed under that code, which sounds like what we're doing. So
yeah.
That sounds great. I did want to bring up, Nora, I know we've discussed several times looking at parking requirements for businesses and within the zones. That's something that I and several other planning commissioners have talked about wanting to prioritize as kind of that snowball effect of little things we can do now to make a big difference. So if the soonest we can really get moving on that, I think would be really wonderful.
Okay, so the city council has all of our list of actions that we want to take. And they are going to meet in a retreat the second week in March, 2 evenings. It's a Thursday night and a Friday night. I'll give you those dates because it is their strategic plan sessions are the 11th in the evening and the 12th in the evening. And they will be Zoom, but they will be also be YouTubed. So you can watch that conversation. We'll see what kind of direction they give us. Sometimes they're very specific, sometimes they're very broad. But I think you're right. I would also like to look at those, the parking requirements. So we can schedule it. We can go ahead and probably schedule that for discussion relatively soon, and then unless they tell us absolutely no, something else is more important.
Yeah, that'd be great. It just seems like something that's so minor that we just consistently hear that as a consistent impediment to locals trying to make their business or their development or what have you work.
Yeah,
So.
it's true. It absolutely is. So yes, we are willing to look at that. The city council feels like parking is really important, and our code right now requires a lot of parking. And so we'll see how that moves forward.
Great. All right. Anyone else have anything you want to bring up for attention of staff or other commissioners? I just want to say thank you. We've had really wonderful attendance this year so far from our commissioners. It's been really great and really impressive, and we should have that. And I just want to say thanks to everyone for prioritizing these meetings.
And we are technically opening, even though it's already been open by appointment in City Hall. Not all of us are going back into the office, but at least the department will have at least one person in the office. Every department, Corey's there every day, and so is Barry and the building inspector. So we already comply with that. And if people want to come meet with Corey or Barry on an appointment basis, they can do that today. But we're just sort of making that more formal. Everybody will have to come into City Hall and check in at the treasurer's office first thing. And then they can go to their scheduled appointment. So we are loosening things up a little by little. Certainly we still all have to wear face masks and maintain separation and all those kinds of things, but we're trying to loosen things up. There's no word yet on how long we can continue to do online meetings or the Zoom meetings. I think it's really helped in terms of attendance. And I haven't seen it too much of an impediment for people getting involved. For the Planning Commission, probably more so than the City Council. We've been getting pretty good public input with the City Council at their weekly meetings. So some people have it figured out. So it will be a balancing act. But for now, we will continue to schedule them via Zoom. The other thing I wanted to let you know is we are slammed. We've gotten, I don't know, 8 new applications in the last couple of weeks. And some of them are big, like Lions Back. So we are very, very busy, along with, Corey was out of the office today, so I spent all day answering questions. He spends all of his time on the phone answering questions and dealing with everyday planning, current planning stuff. And I spend most of my time doing that as well. So just to let you know, we certainly haven't slowed down and we're really busy. And some of those things you'll see, and some of them you won't. It just depends on, what the code says about a permitted use and what needs review by the Planning Commission. But there are a number of site plans that will be coming up that you will be the approval authority for. And those will be coming up in the next meeting or two.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it. If no one has feedback or questions, we can get out of here early.
I know Ruben asked about the joint session with the City Council. What we often do with those is talk about something of mutual interest. And however, we may want to do one after they do their strategic plan, just to get everybody together and kind of on the same wavelength. So we will see if we can fit that in with the City Council agenda. And usually those meetings, unfortunately, or whatever, they're usually at city council meetings. But with it being Zoom meetings, it's not quite as big of an issue with attendance. So I'll find out what the city council wants to do moving forward. Maybe the parking, maybe the home occupation, some of these things may be candidates for joint work sessions.
In glass,
I'm sorry?
in glass windows
In
as well.
class. Yes.
I'm really excited for that to be a part of the code.
Okay, we can certainly take a look at that. It's a matter of priorities, Ruben, like everything else. But,
I'm working on a presentation. Don't worry.
okay, good, great. We'll see if we can't get that scheduled up.
Yeah, and that sounds great. And we have enough new commissioners or first year commissioners to just to remind everyone that if there's something, whether it's parking, whether it's design standards, things like that, you're always welcome to bring a proposal to a meeting or bring a discussion item to a meeting. We don't necessarily have to be driven by what the council's priorities are right now or what staff has. We obviously have priorities about, if there's applications we need to get through, we have to do those first, but we have a lot of discussion time, a lot of future agenda items, and it's good to kind of get people thinking about them as early as possible. If there's something that you would like to sort of shepherd through the process, we can absolutely do that too.
We could actually even add an item to the agenda that says, I don't know, planning commission ideas or something,
Definitely.
some term for it. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually.
Great. All right. So if everyone's all right, we can go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 6:34 p.m. Thank you, everyone. And we will
Thank you, everybody.
See you next month.
Yay.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Enjoy the
Bye.